Spider Pig, Spider Pig, does whatever a spider pig does. Can he swing from a web? No, he can't. He's a pig. Look out, he is a spider pig.
Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to the Film Board from The Next Reel on rashpixel.fm. We spoil movies, and tonight we're breaking with a few traditions here on the Film Board. It's not a Star Wars movie. I know, it's been a number of Decembers, but this year we've been given a bit more freedom from our creative overlords at Disney. Tonight we're talking Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and this one is only made in association with Marvel. It is also the first time we've tackled an animated film on the Film Board, and this one is a doozy.
My name is Peter Parker. I'm pretty sure you know the rest. I saved the city, fell in love, then I saved the city again and again and again. Look, I'm a comic book, a cereal, I did a Christmas album, and a so-so popsicle. But this isn't about me. Not anymore.
6 different spider things being thrown at us in new and inventive stories for the screen. Tell me what kind of unique spider thing you'd most likely be. Andy Nelson.
I probably would be really good at scaring children and other people.
Arachnophobia.
One.
Yep.
Very nice.
I'm really good at parties.
Hello, Tommy Handsome. What's your spider thing?
I think I'd probably be like spider creep because I'm already I'm naturally sticky.
Can we get like something more heroic? Steve Sarmento, hello.
All right, people, let's start at the beginning. My name is Steve Sarmento, and 7 years ago, I started listening to a podcast hosted by these guys, Pete and Andy. I started commenting and giving Pete a really hard time about some of his opinions, and then this weird thing happened. I mean, like really, really weird. They asked me to be part of the team, and that's how I ended up on the Spider Film Board.
Wow.
That's an origin story for the ages there. How about you, Pete Wright, spider stuff?
All right, everybody. I'm Steve Sarmento. Wait, what? Did I do that wrong? I thought we were all doing... Okay, never mind.
Steve does have the only superhero name of all of us.
He does.
With the double S.
That's true, because he has the SS.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like Brightburn.
Well, I'm JJ.
Oh, you're JJ.
Oh,
JJ.
That's right.
And my spidey sense tells me that my own spiderness would be a lot more like something from Miss Spider's Sunny Patch Friends.
Yeah.
Anyone know that?
Oh, no.
Yes. They can jump really far and fly. And that's just a throwback for all the parents of Noggin or Treehouse TV kiddos. I was one of those. Whether you're with me on that one or not, you should go check out all the details about this show and the Next Reel's extended family of podcasts at thenextreel.com. There you can join our fun community of film fanatics. So go dig deep into our dirt because we want to continue the conversation with you. All right. I am so excited to talk about this one with you guys. New style of movie for us here, y'all. How did you like it? Pete?
Go, you guys. I'm so glad we did this movie. I loved this movie.
Me too.
I loved it. I adored it. I loved the weird Looney Tune physics on just one character. I loved the style. I loved the weird way that it's kind of a 3D movie without your glasses. Like, what did that look like if you saw it in 3D? It's very strange. I love these characters. I love the script. The only thing I wasn't so keen on was just the development of some of the villainry, but overall, I left this movie just jazzed, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Woohoo! We are off to a great start, and great for it being animated for us that way, too. How about you, Steve? What did you think?
Yeah, a really good movie gives you exactly what you want, but in a new way. And this just nailed it for me. And I love seeing an animated movie that's going to embrace the freedom and liberation that animation just allows you to do crazy, bonkers things. I think so often we've just gotten, tied down with animated movies that are, well, it's animated, but it still takes place in a real world with real physics. And here we've got just all kinds of bonkers animated things going on. And I thought, yes, embrace the lunacy of what animation can let you do and run with it. And this movie did it in so many ways. I just it again. I had such a great time. I am so glad we picked this movie this month.
Me too. And it sounds like we're getting some consensus. Is there going to be any watering down? Tommy Handsome.
That was always my nickname growing up. Old Watering Down.
Watering Down.
Well, I'm not a superhero guy, and I'm actually not much of a animation guy, unfortunately.
True.
But This movie, once I got used to it, which took just a little bit of time, I was absolutely blown away by its humor and its heart and by its visuals. I really loved this movie. I loved it. So I'm a part of the consensus. You're welcome.
What a massive relief.
Loving it. Andy Nelson, what do you think?
This was a Spider-Man movie I wasn't expecting to see, and I was incredibly thrilled by it. Most notably because it had a new Spider-Man character, a bunch of new Spider-Man characters for us, but our main protagonist of the film is a Spider-Man who may now possibly be my favorite iteration of any Spider-Man. I just loved Miles Morales. I loved his story. This was a big win for me.
I'm so glad. And, this is really interesting for me because I think usually when we end up talking about the comic book movies, I kind of get into the fanboy category a little bit. There's a lot of somewhat this sort of things can't do things wrong for me because I like comic books so much. But I wasn't going to see this movie. I had fatigue. I didn't really want to do more. I was locked into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was thinking, okay, I just want to follow this plot line that they're leading me to out. And then, maybe I'll break for a little bit unless I really want to see something. I wasn't going to see this movie, and then we selected it for this, and wow, it knocked my socks off.
Your socks?
Yeah.
JJ, you're going to get cold.
I think this, I have a lot of weird sort of hyperbole superlatives to say about this movie. I think this might be one of my favorite animated movies of all time because of the innovations they do visually in the movie. And I think it might be my favorite movie of the year right now. I challenge myself a little bit about that. I had every emotion in this movie. I was completely bought in. I didn't expect everyone to love it as much as me, but I'm thinking it's going to be the best movie for the whole Christmas season. And I'm going to be too much of a Pollyanna about this movie. This was so great. I laughed out loud consistently. Yeah. It was way better than I thought it was going to be. And it wasn't that I just had a low expectation. This movie steps out and breaks so many things that you're expecting when you're going to it. And that's the thing I want to stress most is that whatever you think about comic book movies or whatever you think about animated movies, this is something new and it's something special. And it really hit that for me. To start our conversation, I want to talk about that thing that you brought up, Pete, the 3D looking thing at the beginning. I probably lasted a good 20 to 25 minutes looking around the theater inside, checking to see if other people had glasses on and I just forgot to get them.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have that? Pete, is that what you were experiencing, or did anyone else freak out a little bit at that?
I totally wonder that because I saw the movie in 2D, and so I
did too.
And naturally, and so I feel like this can't have resolved in the 3D movie. How did they possibly do 3D? Isn't it like putting a hat on a hat visually? Like, how does that even work?
You'd think.
Oh, yeah. About 15 minutes in, I thought, do I need to go? It was playing in 3D only at like one time. And I thought, oh, did somebody load the wrong file? Do I need to go like get a manager and say, hey, I think you're playing the wrong version of the movie because I think I should be having 3D glasses on this image. What's going on? And then I realized, oh, no, the whole image would be totally screwy if it was the wrong thing. But it did mess with me a lot more. And so I'm looking forward to seeing it again because it kept me from being really immersed because it slightly distracted me because I thought there was something wrong with the projection. So now I'm looking forward to going back and just going with it and not letting my analytical side be, distracted.
It's an amazing.
It makes me wonder if we actually brought like red-blue 3D glasses to this movie, if we would see a completely different movie.
It's such an amazing look, and I mean that's what they were going for. I know Lord and Miller. Yeah. They had said they wanted it to feel like you stepped inside a comic book, and it had kind of those little dots. I don't know what they call them, like the Kirby dots or whatever, to make it really feel like that, kind of the way it was printed, and just the way that the different colors sometimes didn't line up. I think that's what gave it that funky semi 3D look that we're all talking about. It's such
the RGB wasn't
right,
together.
exactly. Like it wasn't completely
RGB was separated slightly.
Exactly.
At times. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't even just that. There were sometimes things in the background or some things in the foreground. The image looked like it was like blurred, like shifted. Like there were two versions
on purpose.
And I know it was on purpose, but it seemed to be things always like extreme foreground or like way in the background. And I thought, oh, if I had 3D glasses, would that that's supposed to be like really recessed in the background.
Right.
So yeah, there was the red blue, and I thought, okay, that's a style. At first, I thought that was the 3D, and I said, no, they don't do that type of 3D anymore. It's the other kind, and I just forgot that they are just messing around so much visually. My in-laws asked, what movie they should go see because they had heard about this and then Green Book, and I was torn. I recommended Green Book for them because I think they would enjoy it, because I think this one could just be really overstimulating and overwhelming for people that aren't expecting this type of movie. I remember when what was it, like CNN, when they introduced like their ticker, and like an older generation was like, there's too much information on the screen, it's really distracting. And I can see that, I think, being an issue for some people, because there is so much movement and information thrown at you that I think, number one, it's going to be rewarding on multiple viewings to see everything that's going on, but I could also see where it could be a little disorienting or overwhelming for some people.
There were times when it was very much overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
Certain sequences where I was like, okay, like I almost felt like I needed to look away. It was a little too tough.
Sure.
And whenever they did the fake blurring of someone in the foreground, that's when it really did that RGB thing. I found that just really difficult to look at. So I just had to look at something else. That being said, it started off in the very beginning with that, because it's kind of jerky too at times, especially in the beginning. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like this film is not for me. I already know the only thing I'm going to be able to say on the podcast. But then I really leaned into it of like, no, this is the aesthetic. Just give it a chance. And then for me, it ended up being brilliant and working really well. But yeah, it's a very brave decision.
It is
to make a film like this. Yeah, because this could have been just people being like, what? No, this isn't animation. This is something weird.
What reconciled it for me was accepting that it was an homage to comic books and to the actual books. And I will say that, even in the live action movies that have been coming out for so many years now, some of my favorite stuff is where they tried to create frames from actual books. And so the fact that they did that here and then actually got to a place where they were breaking the fourth wall with the way that the homage was working in terms of the comic books, in giving us thought bubbles and giving Miles, the character Miles, actually questioning why it was there. I was thinking maybe this is going to be some aspect of his power or whatnot, but it's actually something about the vehicle of how they're delivering the story to us. I think this is a beautiful homage to what it's like to read a comic book and then put it on the screen. And I really loved that too. Something that's also something that is very present in a lot of the comic books is this concept of the multiverse. And we talk about being overstimulated with the visuals. Something that I was really nervous about this movie was trying to get through a convoluted story about how multiple universes come together. We're here now because of all the years of comic book movies. How do you like multiple Spider-Mans, multiple Spider things showing up and using this sort of quantum physics theory to explain it? This is going to happen more and more because it's part of the natural comic book soap opera. This is where we are now. Did it bother you that all of a sudden we're explaining the what if there are 6 different spider things that we need to check into?
Or potentially more, because, I mean, Marvel has a great number of universes in all of their different comics. And so this is, I don't know if it's the first time that we've seen it in their films. I think maybe some of the animated films might have dabbled in it. But I think it's a really interesting element to kind of throw in, and they're going to have to at some point, and why not start here and use it in such great effect, where we get to see such an interesting variety of spider characters that gives us a lot of fun and just a lot of variety that made for, I thought, just an absolutely exciting way to tell this story. Which largely is about a villain who is upset with something that happened in his own universe and is trying to, get his wife and son back from a different universe. And I thought that was such an interesting way to kind of create this story and allow for this huge expansion. I loved it.
And as an outsider, I agree with Andy completely. And as an outsider, meaning I didn't grow up reading superheroes. I only read horror comics like a weirdo. But
explains a lot.
The answer, so sticky. The answer to your question that I can give, JJ, is I loved it. I was fine with it because I thought the economy of story was so brilliantly done that they hit the parts that needed to be hit pretty hard, but then really backed off of it. And then as it went on, they didn't keep reacting to every single little thing. The entire backstory of Kingpin was just done in like a slideshow. I was pretty okay. It never gave me the time, and in a way I don't think I even needed to stop and go, wait, is this too much? Is this too weird? Because I was too busy enjoying the ride.
I thought it was going to be terrible. So the fact that they found that economy and they found an artful way to tell us this really difficult story and then with a really complicated visual representation, I think it's brilliant. I think this is a really special movie because of that.
Yeah. You know, there's another thing to tie in here that the DC television universe has gone heavy into multiple Earths, right? DC has been fleshing that out for 3-4 years between Arrow and Supergirl and
Flash.
And Flash. And the DC Legends of Tomorrow. And DC Legends of Tomorrow, their entire premise is jumping through time and through portals, and it's just that's their whole thing. Okay. So and they do these epic crossovers, like multiple 4-week crossover, 4-night crossovers, these massive 4-hour things where they're all the characters on all the shows for a week straight, and they're all jumping through all of these Earths. And I
think they're in the middle of one right now where they all switch powers.
They do. They switch powers, and Arrow is the Flash, and it's a crazy thing. Yeah, it's great. It's super fun. It's exactly the kind of experience you want out of comic book TV shows. I think it's just really frivolous and it's super fan friendly, and so I wonder. Actually, I found myself thinking, I wonder how much of the table is set right now that we're in this period where everybody's going to be exploring multiple universes in their own unique way. We're just kind of following the creative juices, and now we get to see it get the Spider-Verse out. I think it's really exciting.
That does make me nervous because in the right hands, it's almost kind of like with great power comes great responsibility. A lot of too much universe craziness in the wrong hands can just become numbing and terrible. So I hope that...
Well, that's what I kind of wondered, right? Because this is not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So does this... But I talked about in the intro, I said it's in association with Marvel. We saw the Marvel intro screen. I got super excited to see Sony and Marvel working together this way. Could this be a little bit of sugar to a very light way, a very interesting and fun way to talk to us about a multiverse concept, and then we're walking into this potentially very difficult to explain resolution in Avengers 4 with what happens for the Infinity Gauntlet? I mean, why does Into the Spider-Verse come out now? What are they showing us? We're going to have Marvel, Captain Marvel come out, and she's going to be going all through time and different things too. I mean,
she is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it takes place in the 90s. So
spoilers,
right? So maybe they're trying to set us up to say we can do this, and we can do this in a way that you're going to like it.
Well, with great success comes great responsibility, and I think what they're doing, the way they handled this was really intelligent because they know Spider-Man, it's like folklore. Everybody knows the origin. And so we got for each of them, I mean, what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man? I get bit by a spider, I got some special powers, and I lost somebody close to me. And we see that for many of these that are introduced. We see, what their origin is, or a condensed version, because we don't need the whole thing. And even the Uncle Ben's line becomes sort of a punchline because somebody starts to say it, and Peter was like, no, don't even finish that.
Don't say
that. Yeah, we all know this. And they've leveraged that, and it allows them to get into that economy. But they leveraged it well for Miles' story because he has to experience his loss, and they all know that because they've been through that. What I've read is what they're doing is there's a planned sequel to this one, but they're also planning the spinoff of Spider-Gwen. So they're planning her own separate film with her and
Jessica Drew, and it's and Penny Parker, all of the Spider Women,
the Spider Women.
Yeah.
Yes,
interesting.
So I could see where you're saying. I think they're sort of priming the audience for get ready for some messy, head scratching stuff that we may bring at you. But for me, people that are fans of comic books, they love this stuff. And for me, it was great fan service to put all these in there, but the story was handled so intelligently to treat the audience with respect and say, we know you know these things. And I think a little bit they leveraged the Deadpool with, as we heard at the beginning, the first Peter Parker talks about, very self-aware of the merchandise, the really, bad looking popsicle. To me, that's that Deadpool piece of, we can be self-aware and we can make fun of ourselves and what we've done as a corporation in the past with the Spider-Man Christmas album and all of those things. They have that freedom to me in this animated version to do those types of things, to poke fun at themselves a little bit. And I think they just balanced it really well.
Well, and I think I'm glad you brought up Deadpool, because I think the feeling that I got in looking at this movie is that Marvel has these great properties and they're making tons of money in it. And the Spider-Man franchise as a whole has been through some weird iterations. I was never a particular Tobey Maguire fan just because it wasn't the right cast for me for the original Spider-Man. I know, Pete, you really like the Andrew Garfield stuff. And and in general, I think people are pretty happy with Tom Holland.
Mm-hmm.
But something that's interesting.
Tom Holland is the one, yeah.
Right. But something that's interesting with the Deadpool thing is that we need to give a little stage back to Spider-Man. And part of this felt like Marvel saying, let's make Spider-Man great again. This is our guy that we're going to make a big deal. And Spider-Man has all these different ways you can go with it.
Well, and I think by choosing Miles Morales, to me, this is very much 21st century. Let's have, and Spider-Gwen, it's like, you look at, the history of superheroes and it's, white dudes. And so to now get into multicultural and different gender, this is realizing that our audience spans the globe and different people are interested in Spider-Man. He is an international phenomenon. We need to make a story that is going to be representative and it's going to be appealing to this international and global audience. And I think they handled that really well in this version, because we didn't get Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. We got Miles Morales. So there's an entire generation of, kids that can identify with this Spider-Man that couldn't identify with the previous Spider-Man. And Kevin Smith has a little video on Wired where he talks about, the different versions of Spider-Man in TV and film, but he talks about Stan Lee with Spider-Man. When he's got his costume on, he could be anybody. Anybody could be Spider-Man, regardless of race or gender, because you don't see their face. Whereas with with Superman, you see his face, it's a white guy, but Spider-Man could be anybody. And he becomes that universal hero where anybody could put on the mask and be a hero.
That's what all that was about. Cool.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah. And that's why this Stan Lee cameo is so wonderful just after his death, right? His lines, I'm really going to miss him. How wonderful is that? And then for him to say, it eventually always fits. Just that concept, they're really diving into the Spider-Man character and saying, this is what the origin of Marvel was about, and giving it back to everyone. I know that this is something that you guys really liked. Was it last year when we did The Last Jedi? The concept of giving the Force to everyone. Mm-hmm. That's what Marvel's doing here. It's saying everybody can be a superhero. I just thought that was really, really
well, it's
special.
doing with a character. Spider-Man is their most popular character, or at least it had been for a huge portion of Marvel's life. Yeah.
Historically.
And it's giving a different voice to it in a way that I think is wholly unique, and it allows for that expansion of the mythos of Spider-Man to really become that idea that it can be anyone. And I think that it does, and I think that's another reason why the multiverse actually ends up working so well, because it allows for, it really does allow for anybody to be Spider-Man, because you could have any universe where, one of us is Spider-Man. It's a really interesting way that they have developed that. And I'm thrilled with the way that they played with introducing Miles Morales as the character, because I think that it's a different background for our kind of our perception of Spider-Man, but it ends up creating a really interesting character with great family dynamics and just kind of a unique origin story of his own that clearly the filmmakers are they know the history of Spider-Man, and they're respectful of the history of Spider-Man all the way back to the cartoons. I mean, that's something I think Lord and Miller have been doing really well with, like the Lego properties that they've been working on. I mean, the Batman one had kind of did the same thing. The Lego Batman movie, it was, you had homages to all the different Batman. It was brilliant. And they do that here, where they are showing great respect to all of the stuff that came before them, while also allowing themselves to play with it a little bit and breathe some new life into it.
And not navel gazing,
right.
Meaning not getting so lost in the lore that even if you don't know that Spider-Man existed before, it's not like if you didn't get that Tobey Maguire dance joke,
Right.
it was so quick that like, even if you didn't see that movie, it still would work. And you'd be like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it's still funny.
Very nimble.
Funny on its own.
It's funny. You were talking about all the people that Spider-Man could be, and I think we just have to shine a great big fancy spotlight on the middle-aged fat guy with a gut and stubble that is
Peter B.
sort of relinquishing the role to all of these wonderful new characters. And I think this Peter Parker is one that sadly I can relate to. And
Jake Johnson's Peter Parker. Peter
he
B.
was
Parker.
so good. This is just Nick
great.
Miller, right? With in the outfit, and I really like Nick Miller. I can relate to Nick Miller. And so I really enjoyed Jake's portrayal of Peter Parker here, and I think it so fits this universe. Like it that he is sort of the elder statesman, and it gives him kind of purpose, but also the purpose to hand off the reins to this next generation, I think is deeply satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Is it really though handing it off though? Isn't he going back? He's still going to be Spider-Man in his universe.
He is, but look at what he's doing for these other Spider-Men, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's like this is a thing. Yeah, he's going to do his thing, but also he gets to be a mentor, and he gets to watch them go be great. And I love that spirit in the third act of this movie, which is him saying, "Yeah, the kids got it. Like, this is great. We did good
I love
work.
you. I'm so proud of you. Do I want kids?" That was so,
and that works so
fantastic.
nicely with his character arc, because then he still gets a character arc, which I loved, because he goes back home.
Yeah.
We see him connect with Mary Jane again because of the whole thing with kids. I mean, it was beautiful the way that they incorporated that.
I do think that the screenplay can be looked at times. I'd have to watch it again, but as a masterclass of economy of story, and also able to give arcs that seem significant but are done so quickly and so little. I mean, Gwen Stacy refines friendship. I'm not going to go through all of them because I'll mess them all up. But I mean, I guess the Spider Ham starts to eat meat. That's weird.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, that was pretty cool to see how many different things, the dad story, the everything. I mean, there was so much actual heart in it, but it didn't get like that, not to throw him under the bus, but like a Judd Apatow-ish kind of like really rolling in that kind of stuff. It was just very economy, I think is the word that I keep wanting to use.
Well, yeah, I love that, it was really focused on character. And even with Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, it's not, I'm evil and I'm going to do something. It's he has experienced personal loss. And so it's the villain that you can, to a certain extent, sympathize with and say his method is way off track, but you can understand that he's experiencing loss and he's angry about it. And he wants, to take this out on somebody in some way. And this is his only way of doing it. Normally you get I'm the villain that's just a villain to be the villain for plot purposes. But here he has a character-based reason for what he's doing, which I love seeing in stories because it just makes the arc of the hero, the conflict, it gives it so much more substance. When they're battling each other, you can understand they each have something at stake. It's not just, the hero has to defeat the villain because that's the way the story goes. It's, if Kingpin does win, I can see why. why he wants it so bad, what he's fighting for. Doc Ock, on the other hand, yeah, she's the sidekick, and I don't get as much about her motivation. That's the one character I have a little issue with. She's just your typical sort of henchman, and I wish there was a little bit more to her and why she's involved in this.
For me, that was, I didn't have a huge issue because I know with a lot of Spider-Man films they've had a lot of villains, and that's been a big problem that I've had with them, especially because they try to each have their own story with Spider-Man, and it really bogs it down. What I liked about this one is that she was just a henchman, and she was just another villain to have in there, just like the Goblin. I liked that they were all working for Fisk, and they didn't necessarily need to have their own stories. For me, that cleaned up the problem that I have with those multi-villain films.
Although, I feel like there was something that was missing for me in the villainry, and that was specifically around Miles and his family and specifically his uncle and his dad, Jefferson and Aaron. I really connected with that story and I wanted more in that area in particular, not even in costume as the Prowler. Like I wanted more Mahershala Ali, in this role as a mentor. I just, and I know, it's not that there's anything wrong with the film as presented. Maybe it's just me wanting more redemption from Green Book. But I just felt like that was a real special triangle, the Jefferson, Aaron, Miles triangle. And I think it was something that I was hungry for. I was hungry for more of that.
What a great reveal. Did you guys see that coming?
No.
That Uncle Aaron was going to be the Prowler?
I only knew that he had a secret because everyone in the movie was something. But I never.
Yeah.
When Miles is in the apartment and he comes in, I'm like, and he takes the call, and I thought, it's got to be the uncle. What? It's got to be, because we were given the phone call of like, oh, I'm away on business for the next couple weeks. I'm like, okay. Smart writing. You don't introduce a character and then just write them off with a poor excuse. He's going to come back somewhere. He's tied into Miles somewhere. So that I had a hint. I wasn't positive, but I was suspicious because I thought this is the only character. Whenever you have a masked character, I start wondering, there's got to be a reveal. It's got to be somebody we've seen before. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
Well, and luckily, I mean, they timed that well because the reveal is like seconds after that.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yes. No, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I saw the film with a friend of the show, Darnell Smith. And I made the joke because he was saying he didn't see it coming. He knew he had a secret. Yeah. And I said, yeah, me too. But then I was like, but then once he took off his mask and faced the camera and someone called him Uncle Aaron, I was like, yep, got it. It's Uncle Aaron.
Yeah.
Uncle Aaron is Prowler. Sorry, Sony. I'm a couple steps ahead.
So one of the I'm actually reading with my son. We're reading Miles Morales' Spider-Man, which is essentially it's kind of a novelization. It's sort of a novelized sequel to the movie, but it's written by Jason Reynolds and Kadir Nelson. And Jason Reynolds is this unbelievable writer. I mean, he's a National Book Award winner. I'm not sure if he's got a Pulitzer, but he's an incredible writer, and he tells these incredible stories about just the Black experience and the Black youth experience. He's written a dozen books, and so this book, I can't recommend it highly enough. If you're into this story and you're into books, I guess it's a really good one. And so I cheated a little bit because it's sort of a sequel. It picks up with the hole that is left after Aaron's death, and that
for the family,
for Miles and for Jefferson in particular, but mostly for Miles because he's talking about, I was there when when you died. I saw that. I didn't, because we as the reader don't know how it happened. They don't talk about it in the book, but they absolutely go into that emotional experience of the hole that's left when your family member dies and you can't tell why that you were there. You can't tell that it was this incredibly complicated good versus evil, but so much more story. And it was I found it. I'm finding it very satisfying. a satisfying read. So for what it's
Nice.
worth.
Well, that's awesome. And I think Miles as a character is kind of a revelation here. I thought it was fantastic. And Shamik Moore, I mean, I
Loved
want to
his
see more
voice.
So
of this
great.
character.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Loved
great.
his voice
Yeah.
so much, and the animation. It was just such a great. Everything about it was so. It was so charming.
And looking at the cast altogether, I want to tell you, when I went through everybody that's listed as a part of this movie in IMDb, this is one of the first times when I've had to go into the full cast and crew to get down to all the names of the people who had an impact in this movie. This is a huge, wonderful voice cast in this movie, and you may not always realize it, but there are very friendly, recognizable names that are voicing over these parts. Who are some of your guys' favorites? We already talked about Mahershala Ali and Shamik Moore. Who else did a great job on voice for you?
Cage, baby. The whole time
So
I was like,
good.
No.
is that Nicolas Cage? Because that was my favorite character, was Spider Noir.
Oh.
I'm such a sucker for that kind of writing, that old-timey kind of pitter-patter gumshoe kind of stuff. I love so much.
follows.
Oh, it's so great. He had so much stuff without being too much like, let's beat feet. Like, he wasn't too much into parody. They knew how to use it with, again, economy. I know one word. But it was, I loved all that so much. And that was my favorite part. The cool thing about it being such a cool cast, it never felt like, it seems like in a lot of, animated films, this is probably a cliched thing to say, but they're casting big names just to draw in parents, because it's kind of like who cares? Like, why is John Cena the voice of an animated something? But all of these voices seemed really smartly picked to really be the perfect like distillation of the characters, which I really liked.
This is an incredible Lily Tomlin vehicle.
Lily Tomlin as Aunt May. Yeah. And she's gung-ho. I saw an interview with her talking about how she's actually seen a comic where Aunt May gets bit by the spider and becomes Spider-Man? No, Spider-Man. Spider-Man she becomes. And she's like, I'm ready. Let's make it. I think that's awesome.
I really love John Mulaney as I thought he was as Spider-Ham. I thought that was genius casting, and he just has the perfect voice for it. And he tells this wonderful story during the late night circuit. And I was watching some interviews before we came on, and he tells his story about how he didn't know anything about what they were going for the movie. They just said, have some fun with it and go in and do your lines, and so he did, and so these lines they played some of him that they captured.
So you go into this thing blind, and they give you a script, or do you get to improvise a little bit, or?
Oh, so yes, it is wonderfully scripted, but they did a thing that is very generous when they say to comedy people, they say, have fun with it, and add your own words. And so for the very first session, I'm still in fight or flight because I think it's a kidnapping. I did go my own way with it, and I threw in my own lines. And what happened was I was just cursing wildly.
Well, no. This is you. Thank you for you. Save this exclusively for us. These are outtakes. These are not in the film.
Yes, they sent along the
John
audio.
Mulaney doing the voice of Spider-Ham.
This is real. I did this. Damn right. Oh, you bastards. And how the is he going to do that? And how the exactly is he going to do that? 2 days. I've been Spider-Ham 30 years.
They can't use any of that.
I thought it was great. And each voice I thought was so well encapsulated by the animation, right? That was so different. And when you look at that shot as they are, they're the sort of down camera below Gonki, the roommate, and they're looking up at all of the spider people on the ceiling, and each one of you freeze that and look at it, because every bit of animation for each character is so unique and so special, and so different from the character right next to it, touching it. That is some incredible artistry, the way they did that, and to keep that and be so committed to it for the entire duration of the film was just deeply special.
I've only seen that. I've only really noticed that in an animated movie once before, and that was in Atlantis, the Disney.
Oh yeah,
movie,
yeah.
where they had different animators on each of the characters, and it really looked like they were each a different style. But it wasn't for a specific purpose to the story in Atlantis. Whereas in this, they're from different dimensions. How perfect and how clean did they do it through everything? You know, you talk about one of my kids' favorite parts of the entire movie is when Spider-Ham comes up and says, "You got a problem with cartoons?" And he starts beating him over the head with, an Acme sledgehammer, and then drops an anvil on Scorpion. Like that kind of idea, it was done with such care and specificity to the story that it was really great. I've never seen any animation like this before. This feels like something completely revolutionary and different to me. Now, I might just be unfamiliar with that kind of stuff. Have you guys seen anything like this where you have these shifting backgrounds and then the sort of the again, going back to that homage of comic book that they were doing in frames, and then we talked about the dots and we talked about all this stuff. I've never seen anything like this. This feels completely new to me.
There are, it's been a great decade for playing around with animation and a lot of really interesting styles. I mean, you look what I can't remember the name of the company, but the Irish company that's doing films like Song of the Sea, they are doing some, and I can't remember the other films that they've done. They've done a number of them. That it's such an interesting style that they are doing. You look at some of the films coming out of Japan, like the Princess Kaguya, and the way that it looks like it's done in watercolor. There are some really fun styles that people are playing with right now in animation. Not necessarily like this, but it does seem where the doors have really been opened to explore what we can really do with animation, and it's exciting. I mean, even something like Chico and Rita, which is I think Puerto Rican or Cuban film that came out a few years ago about kind of jazz. I mean, it's great that people are exploring and playing around with that, and and this just fits right in with that. It's like Steve said earlier, this is a format that allows for this play to exist, but it's not always present. But when it is, and when they use it effectively, it's a thrill.
Well, they're embracing the visual medium because early movies were a lot of, they were set up like watching a stage play. The camera was locked down and the, action would happen. And then, as cameras became mobile, things changed. And, comic books, how do you communicate information visually? We've talked about this, I think it was on Black Panther, at Marvel, where there will be certain shots that are set up like, yes, that's a panel. That's the cover of a comic book. And this is just taken that, times 100. Comic books, have figured out how to communicate, coming back to Tommy's word, economy, how to get information across visually very quickly. And if it does it so well there on the printed page, why not find a way to bring that to life on the screen? Because there were so many things that were done where I thought, yes, that, we've got multiple, split screen stuff going on. Everybody knows, or most comic book readers are going to know how this works, where we've got, the multiple panels of the shot where we're getting closer on a character. It's like it's a comic book version of a push in, but let's keep it set up like that because it has a certain feel to it and it lives in this world. There were just so many things that, it's those, I guess, I don't want to say cliches, but it's those.
It's tropes, but beloved tropes, and really honoring those, and then also breaking them. Of like sometimes they'd go 1, 2, 3, 1, and then 2 and 3 would be separated, but actually be the same.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
The tire would speed. I mean, it's a real movie to want to see again.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm dying
which is
to
such
see
a great
this
compliment for it. Like, really want to see it again, just to let. Yeah.
Well, and the other reason to see it again is because with animation, there's so much detail. As if we're taking the time to animate each of these characters differently, then you've got everything going on in the background. I noticed in Peter's dorm room or whatever, there's a Chance the Rapper, and in our world he's got his baseball hat with number 3 and he's got a number 4 up there. I'm like, okay, there's just little things. I saw in Times Square there was a ad for some Seth Rogen movie, and I'm like, what was that?
Hold the horses.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Just fun
hold
little
the horses
things
Seth Rogen
like that I know that it's going to be this freeze frame, fest of just like what is going on, what is embedded in here, what are they hiding in there, what are these Easter eggs, but also just to experience the visuals. On the way back, I asked my daughter what was her favorite part, and she said whole what was it? A kid in a Halloween costume dragging a homeless corpse with him. The whole unconscious Peter dragged behind the train thing, which is just insane. It was so much fun. She said, she's like, that's my favorite part. She's like, I haven't seen anything like that. And it's just so much fun because you get, again, we're not in the real world when you can have Miles riding on Peter's body and Peter's face is dragging against the concrete. It's like, oh, oops, sorry. We're not in the real world where it's like, oh, geez, he's going to have, bad road rash. So many animated movies try to
play. All broken.
Yes. I mean, he gets beat up, but again, we're in cartoon land where,
he's Spider-Man. Spider-Man always gets beat up.
People get beat up, but we don't have gore. We don't have realistic gore. People can get, shot and we don't have to have blood all over the place because we're in as it told us right at the beginning, this is approved by the Comics Code Authority.
Right. Yeah.
There at the beginning.
What wonderfully
great little joke there. Yeah.
You mentioned Chance the Rapper. I wanted to bring up the music in this movie.
So good.
The credit on it was Daniel Pemberton. This, in terms of soundtrack and in the score, is one of the best that I've heard in a long while. All the music cues were perfect, and they did a bunch of mashup of classic rap, New York based. I mean, it was geographically purposed. It was all of that, and then you've got the score where all of the soundtrack, whenever we're dealing with the Prowler, like the Prowler's theme is just, it's creepy and it's wonderful and it drives energy to everything about the music in this movie was spot on. And the soundtrack right now is available and it only has the current music cues that are on it. But there's gotta be an extended soundtrack that'll mix that with some of the classic stuff and some of the score stuff. All the music was so perfect for me in this movie that it just drove me to enjoyment at every turn on this one.
It sounds like the music that Miles would be listening to.
Totally.
It fit perfectly in the world. And Pemberton, we've talked about him a number of times on the show. He did Ocean's 8. He did Molly's Game. He did The Man from U.N.C.L.E. He's a composer that's been doing some really interesting stuff. And I think that he perfectly found the tone for everything going on here and brought the music to life in just a brilliant way with not just him, but the music he did plus all the songs that they brought in, everything just fit so perfectly for this world.
Oh, he did the music for Black Mirror's USS Callister.
Right, yes.
So he's also really good at being able to synthesize a certain
type, right.
Take on a certain type and then really make it about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Someone was talking about Easter eggs. We bandied about a little bit the 42 number, and I also heard a little anecdotal reference saying that Stan Lee is in lots of places in the movie. Steve, you mentioned that there's a bunch of freeze frames. He's walking a dog at some point. He's in lots of different places, so they put him all over this movie, which is great. Someone in our pre-show talk mentioned that there was a joke about the original Spider-Man 3, and I missed it. So Andy, was that you? Did you hear that joke? What was the joke about?
It was the dancing. It was when he's dancing, at the very beginning. He's just like, we don't need to talk about that, or whatever he says,
Yes.
Right. I thought it would be something about the too many villains because
it was
Spider-Man 3.
It was
tried to create an origin story for 3 of the biggest villains in Spider-Man history.
Well, yeah, when Peter Parker introduces himself and we get so many sort of memorable moments from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, I thought, okay,
right.
That really, I'm like, which Spider-Man universe are we in? Because it was really interesting to see, the upside down kiss, the Spider-Man 3, dancing down the street. I thought, okay, the car,
stopping the train,
throws, stopping the train, all those.
So that's how Tobey Maguire ended up, right? Is that a way to think about it?
Yes.
So there were little.
He ended up being Jake Johnson.
He turned into Chris Pine. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, Chris Pine. Oh, right.
Chris Pine was the original Peter Parker. Yeah.
This is when my head starts to hurt a little bit. But yeah.
Okay. He's singing the Spider-Man Christmas songs.
Right. That was him. I'm sorry. I got confused.
He's the one who dies.
That, we haven't really talked about that, but that was a serious moment in this movie when Kingpin just up and crushes him.
Yeah.
Like we talk about the, comic code and whatever, but a Spider-Man died. Like the Spider-Man that was known in that universe, a Peter Parker is dead. And yeah, it's great to celebrate all this new stuff. But this movie, I mean, we have this older Peter B. Parker, but this movie changes things. And I think that's not to be left out of the conversation.
Well, and that's why, I mean, really, I want to touch on that sort of through line piece that you were talking about earlier, Pete, in that what they did here by giving us the death of Golden Boy, Chris Pine, Peter Parker, and then bringing in the middle-aged, hanging up the boots, Peter Parker, was really, they gave us a very graceful way to say, here's what we're going to do next. We're going to show you all the creative innovation that can come from Spider-Man. And we're going to take you into this multiverse way of looking at all of the creativity that can come out of the comic book universe. This is not what I expected when I walked into this movie. I expected to see a convoluted story that was going to mess me up and that I was going to be disappointed that they're still trying to squeeze one more dime out of Marvel properties. That's not what happened here. This was really an homage and a new way of saying, let's go to the next chapter. And I really loved it.
Did that never happen in the comic books?
They did kill him in the
comics.
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh, they did
in the comics, and Green Goblin did. And it's great that it was Bendis. Was it Michael Bendis who was in on this movie and wrote that particular episode or that particular issue, and it's a wonderful kind of, I don't know. You say it's an homage. It is, but it's the same. It is really filming a powerful moment that's kind of been in the lore for some time, and I think they did it with kind of rip the Band-Aid off with sort of violence and grace, and I think it was great. And we get caught up in the hoo-ha of all the handoffs, and it's a big deal.
I love your phrase of violence and grace, because it was handled. I mean, none of the hits, you don't see the actual hit.
Right.
You see it's always sort of covered by a rock or covered from just looking at Kingpin's. It's both of those.
Kingpin's massive back. Yeah.
Ridiculous back. Right. Yeah, it's done. I mean, this movie does have an enormous amount of heart and a lot of some really dark periods, but handled, I don't know. It's just that word. What's a word for like handling it nicely and quickly? Oh, economy. That'll work. No, but I mean, this movie didn't shy away from some dark stuff and some scary stuff. I mean, people, as you're saying, Pete, they really do die in this movie, and that's not to be expected. And it's handled, I think, with violence and grace. I love your phrase for it.
Well, I'm really excited to see where this ends up on our chart. Do you guys think we should rank it?
It's Flick Chart time! Where is it gonna place Flick Chart time? Nobody knows how we'll rank! Flick Chart, worth it. All right.
All right, guys. First up, we have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or everybody's favorite, The Mummy.
Oh. Spider-Man time.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man for sure. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or Beirut.
Spider-Man. But I did like Beirut, but Spider-Man.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or Solo, a Star Wars story.
Abstain.
Spider-Man
Into the Spider-Verse, or Gravity.
Oh,
good question. Gravity hasn't sat well with people, but I think I still have to say Gravity in this one.
I'm going to say Gravity.
I'm going to say Spider-Man.
There we go.
Andy, it's you.
God dang it, guys.
Oh, come on. This is so much fun.
This is painful because
this is what we live for.
Weirdly, this was the matchup that I was like concerned about. I was like, I hope this doesn't come up. And here it is.
All week he's been talking about it. Hasn't slept a week.
I'm going to go with Spider-Man, though. I'm going with Spider-Man.
Okay. Yes.
There you go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just because you hate Rochambeau.
We can't.
No, we can't do that. We got 5. We're good.
Okay.
Related, Andy, you need new problems.
I do. I know. These are my dilemmas in life. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Oh.
Spider-Man with a bullet for me. Wait, which is The Last Jedi? Is that where the one ship went through the other ship?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Spider-Man.
I love how you say the best moment in that movie and then so cavalierly, that awesome, incredible moment that changed the nature of cinema.
Have been Princess Leia. It shouldn't have been some other character
that goes through that spaceship.
Yes, what a great ending that would have been for her. Which movie are we talking about? Okay, go ahead.
Right.
That's the right one.
I am Spider-Man. Weird.
You are?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm weird about it too. I wasn't going to do it.
We
but,
all are. Anyone can wear the mask.
Steve,
Where are we now?
we're at 3 for Spider-Man.
I want to say I love The Last Jedi and everything it did, but when it comes down to Tommy's word of economy, I think this just nonstop from beginning to end, pacing everything. I don't have anything where I can go, well, there's this one part. This is just a thrill from beginning to end.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to say Spider-Man too. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Blade Runner 2049.
Blade Runner.
I think I've learned that the way that I might enjoy Blade Runner more, because I did like it, is it's a 2-night movie.
Okay.
Do you ever have movies like that it's better if you split it up, like the movie The Fall? I should stop talking. We're trying to come to a close.
Wolf of Wall Street. I had to turn it off when he started hitting on her mom.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, yeah.
I will say Spider-Man, but I might feel bad about that later.
I'm going to say Spider-Man.
What are we ranking it against?
Blade Runner 2049.
Blade Runner 2049.
2049.
I blacked out the first time you said that.
Yeah,
Am I
Spider-Man or
derailing
Blade Runner
everything too much?
2049.
No, it's 2 and 2. It's down to Pete.
Ooh, Pete!
This is very troubling.
This is your gravity.
I think I'm going to go with Spider-Man.
And your economy.
Whoa.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is now number 1 on our flick chart.
What?
Look at
Number
that.
1.
Look at that.
You're kidding me. I'm not angry about that, but that's how flick chart works.
That's how.
Something can just show up at number. I guess I
Yes.
do not understand algorithms. That's crazy. But what about Monuments Men? You guys, Monuments Men. All right.
Tommy, don't you know a subway
So-
can't undress a Spider-Man?
Wow. All
So
right.
if you're listening and you were excited by everything that we just went through with that, because Spider-Man just ended up at number 1, you can check out the
Holy
entire Film Board
cow.
filmography ranked at flickchart.com/TNR Film Board. When you get there, you can create your own tournament style stack ranking of your own. And if you disagree with us, or if you agree with us, you can see how your big screen favorites run alongside ours. Now we also rank it. And I guess it's okay for us to be number 1 for me. It's not number 1 on my personal flick chart, but I'm okay with that because it's a 5-star movie for me and it's a like.
My name's Tommy, and I'll say 4 stars and a like.
4.5 stars and a like.
We can do halves? Now you tell me.
All right. 4 3/8 stars and a like.
Good math.
All right, I'll give it 5 stars. I'll follow JJ.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, you ranked it over Blade Runner, so obviously
It's definitely a 5-star. Although weirdly, I couldn't rank it any higher. It ended up at 34 out of my list on my own flick chart, and I which feels terrible, but it hit some things that.
Oh, because
We're
of
hard to-
2001?
Yeah, 2001 was the real stalemate.
Flick chart
I
humor.
deleted my flick chart account when it hit that.
Reset. Well, I am also giving it 5 stars and a like. So that puts it at an
Wow.
overall 4.7. So it's a way up there. It is a way up there.
When was
Again,
the last time we've all been on one side of a film? Has it happened a lot?
Child 44?
other side. We were on the other side of the tracks for that one. But yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So that's pretty interesting. This is definitely unexpected for it to be that high, but I support it. And where do we go from here? Next month, it's going to be a brand new year, brand new movie. We talked about doing Glass. We're not going to have all 5 of us like we enjoy in December, which was pretty special, but we're going to do Glass 3rd week in January. They say it's both the sequel to Unbreakable and the sequel to Split. It's a dual sequel, so it's going to be really interesting to see. How about on the main show, the next reel on that? Where are you guys right now?
Actually, we're just wrapping up our movies and their remakes series. We've done the Thomas Crown Affair, and then you're catching us right in between The Producers, 1967 and 2005. So we're doing this week. You're going to hear The Producers, the musical, with Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane.
Well, that's awesome. Check out the weekly show, and then next month come back and check us out for Glass. We did make a short mention of it earlier, but everyone listening should come join us over on Discord. We gather with our community about a half an hour before every Film Board show to chat a bit about what we get out of our monthly movie. Go to thenextreel.com for details on how you can connect with us in the virtual green room. The craft service is fictional and fantastic. Thank you all so much for listening and supporting us all year long. Happy holidays, Andy Nelson.
Woohoo! End of the year.
Sweet dreams, Tommy Handsome.
And remember, please join our Patreon because with great podcasting comes great insolvency.
Good night, Pete Wright.
Good night, everybody.
And one more word from Steve Sarmento.
Spider Hondo.
Very nice. At the next reel, when the movie ends, our conversation begins. Till next.
Everyone can wear the mask. Oh, the music stopped.